I think we're ready to start again at the hour number 4 of the Vision Zero virtual open house. I wanted to take 1 second and just thank all the different partners who have not only worked with us, but have called in over these last 4 hours. I've seen representatives certainly from many city departments, from the county, from Metro, the transit agency, from HGAC, from TxDOT, from all the people we've been interviewing, a lot of people putting in the chat and answering questions for us, and the public. This is why we're doing this today. So thank you very much. It is really appreciated and really goes to show how important this is to Houston and to our community. This is only going to work right when we all do it together, and you're joining us today really shows that. So thank you. So we're gonna kind of reset and restart for our 4th hour. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, we'll go through a few technology ground rules, and then we'll go deeper into the program. I think the first thing I'm going to say is if you can mute yourself, please. Sounds like we're getting some feedback. Thank you for whoever did that. If you're joining us by phone or if you're looking for that phone number, 936-755-1521. We are going to once again post the slides that we'll be using into the chat. And while I'll be facilitating, you're going to hear from many different members of the planning department and the transportation planning division. We'll introduce everybody in just a sec. But don't be surprised if you see responses or further questions to your questions in the chat from different members of the City of Houston folks. And with that, I'll ask for the next slide, please. If you are new to Teams, it is pretty simple. We'll ask you to stay on mute. But if we call on you, if you would like to speak, put a note in the chat and we'll have different breaks where we'll be asking people to speak up. Or you can use the raise your hand function. If you have your little toolbar in the middle, the little hand is the raise your hand. And if you're calling in, we'll ask to stay mute and then go to unmute when appropriate, *6 to mute and unmute. And with that, I think we're going to dive right in. Our agenda for hour 7, we're going to be providing an overview of Vision Zero and how we got to this point, opportunities for how everybody can help make our streets safe. At the bottom of the hour, we'll be doing an interview with somebody, one of the modes that we don't speak nearly enough with, and that's representing the fleet industry and the supply chain. And we'll be talking about all the different ways for people to provide input, including mapping tools and surveys, and we're going to get to all that in just a sec. For now, I'd like to introduce the city's Director of Planning and Development, Margaret Wallace-Brown.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for coming back and being with us for 4 hours tonight. How exciting this is, our first open house for Vision Zero. We are so glad that you have joined us tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you and with all of your ideas and your questions and getting to the heart of what Vision Zero is all about. Mayor Turner signed the executive order in August of last year because he understood that making our roadways safe for all users, whether they're automobile drivers or bicyclists or motorcyclists or people in wheelchairs or pedestrians, that everyone deserves a safe way to get around our town. And we take this very seriously. Our goal with Vision Zero is to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2030. And we plan to do that. Our action plan will identify great ways, really firm ways to accomplish that. And we need your help in doing this. So we are grateful that you're with us. This has been a great 3 hours, and I'm really excited about getting into the last of our 4. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to David, and let's listen.
Thanks, Margaret, and thanks again, everybody, for being here with us. So Lauren's going to help me get back to the slides. There we go. And just on to the next one, please. Great. So one thing we do want to start out with is we recognize that planning is for the long term, but things happen in a community, in a society that make you stop for a second and say, what's going on right now? And what is happening in the last couple of weeks, specifically here in Houston, really reminds us that one part of Vision Zero, which we call equity, is really a critical component that should never be forgotten about. So while safe streets are critical to everybody throughout our city, as a city, we haven't invested equitably all across our 670 miles. So certain neighborhoods have access to more modes than others. Certain neighborhoods have safer patterns and streets. And what that means is the ones that haven't been invested in that same way, they suffer more because of those decisions, and that's not fair. So what part of Vision Zero is to correct that historical imbalance, to make sure those communities where frequently low income or communities of color that have not had that investment to provide an equal footing to help them thrive, that we get that right this time. And that's very cognizant of it, and it's top of mind to the city right now. So now we'll go on to a deeper dive into, first we're going to talk about the team behind all the work. So you've met Margaret and myself and Lauren. We're joined by a whole team of planners, members of different city agencies. So we want to thank you. You may see them at different points or hear from them. Sharon and Pete and Brian and Melissa, who the six of us round out the city's transportation planning division. We're also joined, you met Margaret, by Jennifer and Teresa, also in the planning department, and Katrina Bear from Houston Public Works, as well as several other public works people we've seen who've joined us. And we appreciate that this is a group effort, and we do it best when we're all working on this together. So let's talk about Vision Zero for a second. For those of you who are less familiar, Vision Zero is not Houston specific. It's actually a global strategy to end traffic deaths and serious injuries. The bottom line is a couple of decades ago, mayors and members of the community and city officials all over the world just decided that death by traffic crash is just not acceptable. This is something we can fix. This is not out of our control, but we have to make a concerted effort and prioritize it if we're going to get this right. At the same time, it's not as simple as saying, okay, well, we can snap our fingers and everything we can do is going to make it right. We need to remember that we're human, mistakes are made, and part of the approach must be that when mistakes are made, that it doesn't end up killing people. So there is space in there to really look at a systematic approach where all modes come together and all road users come together so that even if something happens, we still survive through it, and we learn from each occasion, and that we really focus across the entire community, not just individual locations, so those who have not had a historical voice will be part of this process. We've learned a lot, not just from the work done to date in Houston, but there's a network of Vision Zero cities, appropriately titled the Vision Zero Network. It includes about 45 or maybe more cities in the United States, plus many around the world. And what we know is that while not any one treatment done in another city would be exactly perfect for Houston, we can learn a lot from each other, either from an approach to education, a physical design approach, how to engage, and we can tailor it specifically for Houston. And that's what we're doing here and what we'll be doing over the next few months. Next, please. So what would it mean? So for Houston, at the very basic level, we are committing to end traffic deaths and serious injuries in 10 years. By 2030, that is our goal. Mayor Turner said a while back that this is going to require a paradigm shift, and it's absolutely true. We can't just keep working the way we have before. We need to look at this systematically. Everyone who uses any part of our transportation system, whether they're walking, they're driving, biking, using a wheelchair, taking transit, all of them must be accounted for, and space given and design and approach given so that they can all work so that they can all use that system. And that includes people of all ages and abilities. It really does vary. We are not just talking about people commuting or people going to school. From the youngest to the oldest, every member of our community needs to be accounted for in this approach. But what we know is that traffic deaths and serious injuries to us are now unacceptable. And that is no longer a spot type of improvement. We're looking at this in the equivalent of a public health issue. These are numbers that really are eye-opening, and it is going to take a concerted effort of all of us together to get this right. So we're going to stop for a second, and we're going to ask you all to join us in an online exercise. If you can each open a new browser, and keep us open while you're doing it, and go to slido.com. You'll see a box for a code, and if you can type in VZHTX, that's Vision Zero Houston, Texas, and answer 2 questions for us. This starts to engage about what is priority to you and what people understand when we talk about. So the first question is, if you can fill in the blank, streets are for what? What do you use them for? What do you envision using them for? What could you if we do this right? And on the other side, streets and intersections feel unsafe when are they unsafe to you? What part of it, or what should we focus on? What we're going to do is ask you all to be putting in that information. This is the 4th time we're doing each of these exercises, so we'll be kind of overlapping all of the different feedback we've received throughout the night. And we'll come back to it in a little bit and report out. In the meantime, we're going to show you, we asked a few different residents in Houston some of these types of questions. We want to show you a little video we made. While Lauren's queuing that up, I want to clarify that originally when we planned this open house, this was going to be in person throughout the community so that we could look people in the eyes and really roll out a map and talk to people directly. COVID is not allowed for that, but what we are doing is every way possible to reach out. So obviously we have this online open house. We have mobility.planning@houstontx.gov. Anybody can email us at any point. It doesn't end at 8 o'clock. Our phone number, 832-393-6660. Our ongoing website with all of these ways to provide input that we're going to talk about tonight, www.visionzerohouston.com. And we encourage you to not just do this yourself, but forward this to a neighbor, to whoever you speak to online, family members, people at work. The more input we get, the better, and we want to hear from everybody. So please help us out and spread that word. And I think now, Lauren, here we go with the video. I think we're having the sound problem again. Hang on just one sec. And of course, because we're moving online, occasionally we have a technology issue now and then, but we're getting it. Still no sound this time.
I'm gonna unmute myself here and stop sharing my screen and try this one more time, including audio system.
There we go.
Okay. So really what we were trying to do is talk to people outside of the transportation world about traffic crashes in Houston. But we're going to be talking about our questions related to traffic crashes. I'm going to ask 5 questions that are related to traffic crashes.
Are we talking highways or are we talking regular just around town streets? Houston proper, couple hundred.
I would assume it's hundreds, if not more.
I do not know, but I'm sure it's over 100.
I say about 70,000 people
per year. I would guess. I would guess 200.
I'd say maybe like 15,000 or something.
I'm just gonna guess and say 350.
People driving too fast and not paying attention.
Probably speeding, driver impairment, and driver inattention. I think that's like the main one. Like literally people just not paying attention.
I see a lot of confusion on the roadway, missing exits, people stopping in the middle of the highway because they've missed an exit.
Texting, being impaired from alcohol or drugs.
Drinking while driving is probably the number one leading cause of crashes.
Lack of infrastructure that prioritizes pedestrians and cyclists.
Probably some road design. No, I don't think so.
I'd like to think so.
No.
I'd love to say yeah, but probably not. I hope so.
I don't think so, but I'd like to hope so.
I think there used to be a time where a single death was front page news, and now it's become so normalized.
I think as car dependent as Houston is, there probably will always be some fatalities, but I think they can be greatly reduced.
Do I think we can get down to 10 or 20 realistically? Yeah, someday. Decrease the amount of, I guess, like crashes on the highway, and then figure out like a different goal for the actual regular roads.
Under 25.
I think acceptable is 0.
0, of course. To have 0?
None.
For my family, it'd be 0. I think the goal should be 0, yes.
I would have a stated goal of 0.
I think the goal should be 0 for everyone. I don't think anyone should suffer. I think the goal should be 0 for everyone.
Thanks, Lauren. So it's pretty telling. We're all pretty much in agreement that our family should be safe. Now we need to expand that, and we need to get it to the point where the goal for everybody, we want it to be 0. So let's take a look at some of the Slido responses.
Just cue it up here really quickly.
So streets and intersections. Oh, here we go. Streets are for democracy, and everything we need to do every day. Love it. Everyone to safely get around, for moving people, for people interactions and transactions, for all people to move around safely, for pedestrians and cyclists, for connecting for everyone, moving people and goods. Connecting various uses in the built environment for everyone. I think that's a great way to finish off that one. And right now we have 68 responses just from tonight alone, and 72 on the second question. Streets and intersections feel unsafe when being profiled by police, when drivers are distracted, when there's no activity. It's an interesting way to look at it. When cars are moving fast on them, when outdated design, where there's, sorry, too fast for me, that's okay, where cars are too close and are moving too fast, when there's no designated pedestrian area. We're going to use all of this, and we're going to keep this up on the website for a lot longer. So please encourage everybody you know. Oh, I'm sorry, the Slido poll won't be open.
So there'll be similar questions in our survey that's online.
Great. Okay. So it may not exactly look like Slido, but these questions will be asked, and we'll be merging all of that. So if we can go back to the slides, please, thank you. So the goal we know should be at 0 for everybody, but that's not where we are today. The numbers are pretty shocking. Nearly 220 people get killed every year in a traffic crash on Houston streets. That's 2 every 3 days. And more than 1,000 people are seriously injured every year in a traffic crash on Houston streets. It's 3 a day-ish. And these were preventable. This is in our control. This isn't brain surgery. We can do this, but we need to really do it and we need to focus. What we can't do is do it alone. What we need are all the regional and city agencies, project partners, and there are a lot of them, and they've already come to join us. And if we're missing someone and you know of a group who want to be part of this, please let us know. This works when it's collaborative and it's multidisciplinary. What it is also going to mean is that to address equity, it is probably going to look at different neighborhoods at different levels, and we have different ways to think about the data, about the people who live there, about the access they have available, and the transportation network. So we're going to have to engage community members in a lot of different ways. I'd mentioned we wanted to do that in person this time. We're unable to, but we're doing it online here. We have all these different phone and web and email addresses, but if you know of people we need to connect to, please let us know. Send us that information. Let us connect with them, because this gets better the more people we bring into the conversation. So what is this action plan going to look like? Well, first of all, it's September 20. And what it is going to be, we're focusing right now on approaching each mode, making that safe, making it safe to walk and to bike, to ride transit and to drive. But just like our logo, these things don't happen individually. These things happen together on a street. And usually on the street with all of these happening at the same time. So our action plan, while may have certain priorities by mode, is going to understand how each of these come together and we make a system that works for everybody. The action plan in September 2020, that is not the end to us, that's just the beginning, because that is the plan of action for how we are going to move forward. So we're working very, very hard right now to get us to that point with a lot of feedback and a lot of input, but understand at that point, that's where we start with the work. Staff is working in a lot of different ways on this, but we're making a commitment to the city right now. And if somebody's unmuted, if they can take a look and maybe mute themselves, all of a sudden I'm hearing myself again. 6,687 lives were lost in the last 5 years. That's the data we're using to figure out where we can fix things, where we can move forward, where Vision Zero is going to work best. And what we're trying to do is get 6,687 pieces of input, comments, feedback, lines on the map, survey responses, to make this pledge that those lives were not lost in vain, that we're going to work from that and do right by our city in exchange for it. So our www.visionzerohouston website has many components that we're going to go through several of them tonight in the next hour. But some of the key things to look at, if you can go there while we're talking, is one, a Vision Zero pledge that no loss of life by traffic crash is acceptable, and these are preventable if we focus. Everybody deserves safe, accessible streets and sidewalks. We have a survey, and it's short. It really focuses on key questions, and then a map where people can identify dangerous streets and intersections. Because what we know, a lot of data is based on reports and where people, where the police come and write up a report, or where there are confirmations of what happened. Frequently, what we forget about is that dangerous streets don't always have those reports. There are a lot of near misses that never get put down on paper. And there are literally streets that people don't cross because they don't feel safe or they can't get across in that amount of time. Those will never show up in the paper, so we need your help to identify them. And we're going to overlay that quantified data with the qualified data, and together we're going to be able to come up with an action plan that really does right by our city. So we have just a couple of minutes before the bottom of the hour where we're going to be talking to Christina Yancey about fleet issues. I'd like to open it up and see if we had any questions or comments in the chat. And maybe one of our staff facilitators can help read out anything we've had so far.
Hey, David. So this is Peter. I actually don't see any questions in the chat. I see a suggestion for if you're looking for traffic safety data in all of Texas, you can find it at the CRIS database, and they posted the link there, which we do make use of. But if anybody's curious, that data is open to everyone. But I don't see any questions here. So do we want to open it up to people that ask questions via voice? Sure.
If anybody wants to unmute at this time and ask any questions. And we have a lot more in the second half an hour. So starting at 7:30, we'll be doing the interview and then showing a lot of the stuff we have online. So feel free to ask a question now or hold it till the second half as well.
Yes, this is Randy, the old guy in the near north side. Can y'all hear me okay?
Hi, Randy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, we've of course been working on the North Houston Highway Improvement Project and all the other improvement projects that are going on around the city. And as I was looking at the map, I was just wondering how the interaction between the freeways, where of course we get on and we're going. I got on this morning, I had to do 70 to get into the inside lane of 45 going to the old folks Walmart special that they allow us for 1 hour during this time. And so if we're doing 70 down the inside lane of the freeway at 5:30 in the morning without room to get on, then all of those folks get off the freeway and continue to merge onto these 66% of our roads. Have y'all looked at how those interact with each other?
So I think the question is, how do our city streets and the interstates that go through our city, how do they interact?
Well, the interstates and the toll roads and yeah. I mean, all of them where we're doing 70, 80 miles an hour. I mean, face it, we don't do 55. We're in Texas, we do 70, 80. And we get off the freeway and we're still doing 60 down the feeder. And then we hit the side road and we're going 35, no, maybe 50. And I know that we have a lot of data about how fast people do go on the streets as a percentage of what they're supposed to go and what it's assigned for and all of that. And just wondering how all that is working into the Vision Zero plan.
Absolutely. And what we know is speed is one of the biggest indicators of what causes fatalities. And it is one of the big data sets that we're using. What we also know is that our streets do a lot of different things. To mention the NHHIP project because it came up, the I-45 project, one of the mayor's requests to TxDOT has been that new feeder roads should be designed as city streets, which part of that does go to our Vision Zero program, that our streets need to be managed appropriately for the speed of the land use around it. So that connection and those transition points are very, very critical to creating safe places for us. Thanks for that question, Randy. I thought I saw somebody's hand up.
Yeah, that we've had Wilson Calvert raised his hand. So Wilson, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hey there, guys. Yes, my question was about how we see enforcement for a lot of the rules that we have in place for like kind of cars and speed limits, yielding to pedestrians, things of that nature. Is there, are there any thoughts already about like the equity angles from it just being like a physical penalty by being written a ticket? And also, is it something that even if you come up with new laws and regulations, is that something that the police department is interested in enforcing? As Randy just kind of mentioned, I don't think it'd be too difficult to find people breaking the speed limit on the highways. Is this something that, we feel that may be an issue with establishing new rules?
It is a very, very complex issue. We'll be very upfront about it. What we know, though, is that enforcement means a lot of different things. It does not just mean the police writing tickets. And what we've learned from a lot of cities is that the way we develop is a critical component to how we design and eventually enforce. So our walkable places development program is one way to look at it, that if we have the design structure so that sidewalks will be built and the pedestrian network will be built out, and we enforce that, that already starts to create an environment where it's safer for everybody to get around and doesn't have to be that end user type of enforcement that we've really been focused on. So it does mean a lot of different things, and it is being incorporated into the planning. I'm going to pause now and introduce Christina Yancey. Are you with us?
I am. Hi.
Hi there. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you joining us today. What we realized is fleets don't get nearly enough conversation airtime when we talk about transportation around most cities. And we're hoping you can tell us about yourself and the work that you do around transportation.
Sure. Well, I work for Republic Services. I am a safety manager. So I'm responsible for several different divisions throughout Texas and beyond. But we provide waste and recycling services nationwide. So here locally to the Houston area, we have about 18 different divisions. Most of those are fleet. We also, of course, run landfills, that type of thing. So we're truly invested in the communities that we're in and have high expectations for our own safety. But ensuring the safety of those, that we work with and the areas that we're in.
Thanks. Can you give people just a sense of when you talk about a fleet, talking about 2 trucks, 10,000 helicopters?
Yeah, so nationwide, we have about 19,000 vehicles in our fleet. I don't know the specific number to Houston, but quite an extensive, operation to keep everyone on the road and, making safe decisions every day.
So this is a project partner that if we can bring in as part of the conversation can really make a big difference.
Absolutely. We work with many different companies and businesses, and then of course with our residential communities. We can certainly help make an impact in Vision Zero.
Thank you. When I say safe streets, what does that conjure up for you?
Oh, safe streets. So safe streets, I think, to me, is really about everyone being able to go on about their day and not having to be concerned with safety. We have a saying at Republic that everyone goes home the way they came to work, and that's our true focus. And I think that's true for everyone in the Houston area, whether we're going to the grocery store or we're going to work ourselves, whatever it is that takes us away from our home throughout the day, we should be able to get there and do what needs to be done and come back to our families and, not have to be concerned with safety incidents or crashes. That includes commuters, it includes working out and, bicyclists and pedestrians and just being able to be out and be active and away from your home without having to give safety a second thought.
Excellent. So what can fleet companies who have their own vehicles, what would they want to do as part of this conversation? How would they want to talk to us? You know, what could they offer, or what would they ask to make streets safer?
Well, I think as companies with fleet vehicles, we really need to take responsibility for our own drivers and our own employees. You know, driver training is a huge piece of what we do as a company. It's we have programs that not just teach our drivers about the types of incidents that we have, but also how to make good decisions in situations and how to best place their vehicle on the road. We also have training programs that, you know, and information that drivers can take home with them. So for example, I had a teenage daughter and, you know, new learning to drive, and the information that we provide to our employees on, you know, just daily driving activities, that's information and skills that can really be taken home, you know, defensive driving courses and having those types of programs. I think, you know, technology is a big aspect as well. We have event recorders in our vehicles. Those event recorders actually, when there's a qualifying event, it'll back up a little bit in time, so we get a holistic picture of what occurred. You know, it could be a fast brake movement, you know, a harsh braking, or you know, a quick turn, whatever the incident might be. That allows us to really sit down and analyze the bigger picture. It connects to the cameras in our vehicles. And then we can have coaching moments with our drivers and, you know, really look into how things went and what went well in that situation, but also what maybe we could do the next time. So it provides us that opportunity, you know. The cameras also enable drivers. I think cameras are a huge piece because, you know, we can have alarms and we can have those types, you know, flashing lights and that type of thing, but to really be able to see what's around your vehicle, you know, we train things like get out and look. We have, you know, blind spot awareness discussions. So I really think when you're working with fleets, you know, the technology and the training piece is key. Another aspect of that is we try to work with the public, and we have like we actually have a coloring book for children. You know, kids love big trucks, right? And our trash trucks are big trucks, and so we have high visibility. And so with the children, you know, we're trying to encourage them to understand safety when you're around big vehicles, or, you know, that type of program. But mostly I think vehicles with fleet, you know, working together with companies through like Together for Safer Roads, I think that really enables us to partner and come together. So, you know, we have other fleet companies like Budweiser, but then there's also, you know, AIG and AT&T, who works from, you know, a technology and awareness of a distracted driving aspect. iHeartRadio has commercials on their, you know, on their programs that, you know, try to bring awareness. So I think that's all part of that kind of public relationship that we can build. So it's not just the companies, but it's all of us holistically working together.
That's fabulous. Everybody should know iHeart Media has been a partner with us on this Vision Zero effort. And you may have even heard PSA about these meetings. We're trying to get the word out every way we can. Christina, I wanted to go back to something you said. We talk about education as a key component of Vision Zero. I'm not sure we've given a whole lot of thought to the driver training and kind of revisiting that training that you were just mentioning. I think that sounds like a best practice that we should do some digging on.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time and effort in the training programs that we have for our workforce. We have a program called Focus Together, and it looks at incident types. It kind of categorizes them into different types, but our focus training, or our Focus Together training, looks at the events and really tries to bring the driver to driver aspect. So it's not just a trainer telling an individual driver how to make the correct decisions. We're bringing in the drivers and really making it a peer-to-peer effort as far as training, and the program is a huge success.
Thank you. And I think I see a question specifically for you in the chat if you're up for one.
Sure.
The question is, what are your thoughts on restricting fleet vehicles to lower than the maximum speed limits or banning cell phones in the cabin? And maybe you pick which part of that. That sounded like multi-parter.
So part of the technology program that I mentioned does give us an idea of not just events, but speed around those types of events. But it gives us an idea of what was going on holistically. So we know where they were within the city and how fast they were going. And we regularly have discussions. You know, all of our drivers are required to follow posted speed limits, all of the street signs, you know, and all of the rules of just being on the road. But in addition to that, we talk about being, you know, kind of a good neighbor and making sure that we just kind of allow the traffic to kind of go to kind of proceed. You know, we don't want to try to keep up with anyone. You know, we're really just kind of be in the moment and follow the rules of the road as, you know, as they're stated.
Thanks. One last question for you, what I ask everybody. What's one of your favorite streets
Favorite streets anywhere. So I moved to Houston from Phoenix, Arizona, and I have to say that Central Avenue in Phoenix is one of my absolute favorite streets. There's just such a life about it, and you know, the majestic trees that line the road, and there's walking paths along it, and so it's a great place to get out and get some exercise. If you come south on the road, you hit a lot of neat little funky restaurants that you know, are a great place to relax and get the calories back that you burned off with the exercise. But I found a road here in Houston, Westheimer, that is actually, I guess, one of the longest roads in the city. And so it goes through different districts throughout, you know, it runs from downtown all the way out west. But you can feel the different personalities as you're traveling down the road. Each of the districts has like a different feel to it, and you know, you hit an area that's more parks and that type of atmosphere, and so it's really a fun road to kind of cruise down.
And we'll give a shout out to the bus route, the 82 that goes on Westheimer. Christina, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay. So Brian, looks like you're joining us. Everybody, Brian Smith, our tech whiz. You're going to show us what's going on the map and the survey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let me share my screen. First, to run off a couple updates for our surveys and the pledge. As of about 5 minutes ago. Am I echoing?
No, you're good.
Okay. So as of about 5 minutes ago, we've had a total of 80 people fill out the pledge. Out of those 80, 25 filled out the pledge today. So thank you to our participants who were able to click in and fill out the pledge during this open house. We have 19 survey responses. So we're looking forward to synthesizing all of that information and reporting that out. And what you see here on your screen is our Vision Zero mapping tool, where just during this open house, we've had 60 people respond to the map by dropping pins. Just to kind of give an overview of the map, what you see here in these orange lines, that indicates our high injury network. So these are streets that we've identified as far as having the highest number of crashes in the city. So even though they're only 6% of our total Houston streets, they make up 60% of traffic deaths and serious injuries. So it gives us a baseline to figure out where we need to concentrate some of our efforts. And we're asking for your help by identifying even more locations, maybe places we haven't thought about, maybe places we haven't seen, by dropping pins. They're color coded. If you have a safety concern driving, it's red, walking, blue, biking, yellow, and using your wheelchair in green. And I'm going to zoom in. If you notice, like, they're no longer concentrated as I zoom in more. And you can click on each of the ones and find out what some of the issues are. So for example, Amore 915 posted a picture and listed a concern saying that the sidewalks need to be wider, especially for the children and their parents who are utilizing the bus that picks them up along the frontage road. So his or her safety concern is walking. If you would like to contribute, all you have to do is drag the pin over and you can add your image, give your feedback, and we'd love to get your zip code so we know where you are in the city. So once again, if we're not reaching out to people in particular areas, or if we notice there are some gaps, we can make some more deliberate outreach. Just an overall update as far as what people have been saying recently. Some of the concerns while biking deal with lighting, the width or how narrow the lanes are, and then also crossing railroad tracks, streets, where the bike lanes, where the sidewalks connect with some of the high-speed intersection and intersections that people believe are dangerous because of how fast people are going. We've been getting some feedback on where the sidewalks, the bike lanes themselves may need some maintenance, may need some cleaning. And then just once again, just letting us know where some of these issues are. And they kind of run the gamut from, like I said, infrastructure to safety, worried about car speeds. And if you weren't on the call earlier today, some of the feedback from our drivers were talking about points of line of sight where it was hard to look around a corner or hard to view pedestrians or cyclists that may be riding alongside or crossing the intersection. So preventing those, preventing those issues from happening or figuring out how we can solve those problems is feedback that we need so we can figure out what we need to do. And this map is going to stay up, so please share it. If you find out some feedback later on in the day, or if you're out walking, riding, driving tomorrow, later on in the week, and you see something that you want to add to this map, it is not going away. It is going to be a part of our ongoing outreach.
Thanks, Brian. I think we might have a couple of questions or comments in the chat.
Yeah, so we had a question. This is Lauren here. Just jumping in. We had a question earlier, David, from Alejandro. What are the recent news from the mayor about Vision Zero? and his goals in setting up the next administration for success with Vision Zero.
I mean, I would say this is a pretty good way to set yourself up for success, giving us the mission to do this work, getting the action plan done in this year, pretty much a year from when it was announced, which is pretty quick for a Vision Zero plan, and then focusing our efforts and those of the city and all the partners on getting it done. Can't ask for too much more than that.
Great. And a question from Randy earlier. He enjoyed this. Thank you. He's also wondering why we have not done any slow streets in Houston.
Interesting you bring that up. Tomorrow, things going well, we will have a pilot project in the East End for our very first Houston ever slow streets. So be on the lookout, and we'll be providing more information as soon as we know it's up and running.
Great. And one just comment here from Elizabeth. Thanks for the information and for all that you do. We need to educate not only the drivers, but also the pedestrian. There are a lot of distractions, and we definitely need safer streets.
I think we all agree there. We need safer streets. So I think at this point, because for all of you who stayed all the way till the end here, almost 8 o'clock, we have a very special treat, a video we have not shown to any of the other 1 hour segments. So this is our world premiere of the transportation folks at the city who did on the street correspondent videos for you. And I think, Lauren, you have that queued up?
I do, yep.
Okay, let's watch. Hi everybody, I'm David Fields. I live in the Montrose section, and what I really love about it is how walkable it is. It's actually my favorite way to explore a neighborhood. Since I'm new here, having sidewalks and stoplights and street stop signs really makes it easy to get all the way around. But my favorite part is walking all the way up Taft Street, all the way to Allen Parkway up Buffalo Bayou. The traffic signals now, when you push the button, it gives you red all the way around. So no matter where you're crossing, you can cross and cars aren't going to go at the same time. It gives you time to feel safe and get all the way across and enter the great Buffalo Bayou, which is a real treat. Enjoy Houston, everybody. I am.
I'm outside of the Manil Collection in Montrose. This is one of my favorite places to come to and enjoy the green space that surrounds the collection, as well as the quiet streets that are really inviting and welcoming for people to walk and bike. And people tend to drive a little slower around here. And that inviting and welcoming vibe of the area is what to me defines safe streets. So when the streets can feel like they're part of the space and are places for people to enjoy, that's what makes me feel safe and what makes me want to walk around and bike around. And I'm sure other people drive slowly through here because it really does feel like a place rather than a means to an end or just wanting to get through the area. And so that's why I frequent this space a lot and will continue to do so.
Hi, my name's Ian, and one of my favorite streets in town is actually this one down on the southwest side of town called Kirkwood, that you're all probably familiar with, but you might not be familiar with some of the new features on Kirkwood that make it just feel so much safer than it did before, and so much safer than other major streets that are like it. So as you'll see, I'm driving down Kirkwood and Meadows Place, and what used to be 4 stop signs that you had to stop at each time, one after another, have been replaced with 4 roundabouts that just feel safe. You feel like you're in a neighborhood now. I can keep driving through here and feel safe driving. People can walk along the wide sidewalks and feel safe. It just feels like everybody who's using this street now can do so much more safely than they used to. There's more space for everybody because it just takes up less pavement than a wide intersection. The angles are such that as I'm driving through, I have to slow down a little bit. Everybody else has to slow down a little bit too. You have to watch the movements that other people are making. And you just negotiate these intersections so much more smoothly, safely, and slowly. And they just seem to work. They work. I'd love to see more of these around Houston. But for the time being, you can come down to Meadows Place on Kirkwood and take a look at them. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a transportation planner. And this is Donnie. He is a dog. We want to show you something. There's a secret garden entrance right here that must lead to something great, right? Wrong. It leads to this pretty crazy freeway entrance. It's a little dead right now during COVID, but a lot of cars go pretty fast. There's plenty of space for them to do it. But this is also a pretty critical intersection for bikes and pedestrians. You can get to lots of restaurants, grocery stores, parks. This is actually on my bike route to work. But luckily, the city has plans to improve it by widening ramps for pedestrians and bicyclists and shortening the crossing distance. It's all part of helping advance Vision Zero, which is the city's commitment to ending traffic deaths by 2030. Because everyone deserves access to safe streets, whether you're walking or rolling.
Hi, my name is Sharon Moses Burnside, and I am riding down the 2500 block of Kelly Street. What I'm showing you is a bicycle facility that has recently been put on the ground here in the city of Houston. We're really excited about it because as I roll down the street, you can see the lines kind of separating the bicyclists from the vehicular traffic that goes down Kelly Street. But if you look at those green markings right there, those are actually done intentionally to make sure that we have a designated area painted on the intersection to reduce conflicts between the cyclists and the vehicles. Now I'm going to keep driving. I want you to notice the black humps on the road with the white striping. Those are called armadillos. And that is really exciting to me because what makes this bicycle facility special is it is a designated bicycle lane. That makes me feel safe because as I'm riding my bicycle down the street, then I know I am physically separated from the vehicular traffic that's going down Kelly as I am on my bicycle.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm standing where the Braves Bayou Greenway connects to the TMC, Herman Park, the zoo, museums, and other destinations through a series of stairs, ramps, and other linkages. This is very important for Vision Zero because it's where our off-street pedestrian and cycling network integrates back into our traditional street view. And maintaining the safety of these spaces for pedestrians and cyclists like myself who may ride the greenway down here but still need to cross a street or an intersection to get to the park or somewhere else to get to our final destinations. It's highly important.
Hi everybody, I'm Peter, and I'd like to tell you about a part of town where I feel safe getting around. Right now we're at the intersection of Herman and Crawford, right across from the entrance to Herman Park. We've got Centennial Gardens right here, the Health Museum right over there, a bunch of B-cycle stations, lots of people walking, biking, driving. It's a super busy part of town. I come here all the time, not just because of the open space, which I love, but also because it's a very useful way to get to other parts of town. You get to the Braves Bayou Trail, you can get to the universities, to Montrose, and tons of other places. And I come through here all the time, and based on the number of people I see coming through here, I'm not the only one that makes very heavy use of this. One of the projects that I've had the pleasure of working on at the city has been a bikeway project on Crawford, La Branch, and then Austin Street. When it's done, it'll connect Braves Bayou to the south all the way to Buffalo Bayou to the north and everywhere in between. And as part of that project, we made some safety improvements to this intersection right here. What used to be just a one-way stop, only cars on Crawford had to stop here, not on Herman, is now an all-way stop. We also added what are called curb extensions. These things you see here with the low concrete curb and the vertical bollard. They're meant to narrow the distance the pedestrians have to cross and give them a little more waiting space on either side. And even though this all came about as just a bikeway project, the cool thing is it's made safer travel for absolutely everybody who uses this intersection. If you're driving, you need to stop, take a look around, and be a little more deliberate about what you perceive. If you're on a bike, you're more visible because of the signage and the pavement markings you put in. If you're walking or if you're using a wheelchair, you have more space for weight, a shorter distance to cross. Overall, everybody has a safer experience. When we make travel safer for one mode, we make travel safer for everyone.
Yay. So we wanted to thank everybody for joining us for 4 hours of Vision Zero Open House tonight. I want to ask the transportation team if you can all show your face for a sec. We got a lot of really positive feedback. This was a great way to do outreach in a new and unusual time. We can only do this when we do this together. So thank you all. Thank Margaret for your support. Jennifer, you can join us too. And Teresa, if you're still around. It's all good because we're all doing this together. We're doing this for you, City of Houston. So thank you for support. Send out every type of input tool that we've put out here. Send it to everybody you know. We want everything we can get. We're going to take all this back. The next series of outreach activities should be in August, where we're going to have more details about concepts for the action plan. So be on the lookout for that, and possibly in person, but we'll see what COVID and the world lets us do at that point. We may do it like this again if needed, but we'll be out there and we'll be talking to you. Oh, and Melissa puts in, don't forget to use the hashtag Vision0HTX on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all very much. Thank you for coming, everybody. We really appreciate it tonight. You all get home safe.
Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Bye-bye,
care, everyone.
everybody. Great job.